The political world has its sights set on Georgia, where a pair of high-stakes runoff races will decide control of the U.S. Senate. As the candidates ramp up their campaign schedules, one Republican is being singled out for his notable absence. Incumbent Senator David Perdue has hosted only one event since Election Day. He says he won't be participating in any debates against Democratic opponent Jon Ossoff. Ossoff is calling on Perdue to, quote, come out of hiding. On Tuesday, Georgia's other Republican incumbent, Kelly Loeffler, welcomed a debate against Democrat Raphael Warnock. Democrats are stepping up their campaigning. On Sunday, the two challengers held their first joint event in an Atlanta suburb. Greg Bluestein is a political reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and joins us now. Greg, good to see you again. So why are we seeing such different strategies from these two Republican incumbents?
Yeah, I mean, for one, Senator Kelly Loeffler has to consolidate Republican support in Georgia at this moment. She ran basically a runoff, a primary in the special election against Doug Collins. Very split Republican ticket. So she has to go try to gain support from his supporters in order to beat Reverend Warnock in January. Whereas David Perdue amassed more votes than any Republican in Georgia history. He even outdid President Trump. So he's taking a more, I guess, distanced approach. I don't know how to best describe it, but he is certainly not out as active as any of the other three candidates, including Republican Senator Loeffler. And I think the biggest contrast where you can see that is Senator Loeffler is going to participate in the Atlanta Press Club debates and perhaps other debates against Reverend Warnock, whereas David Perdue says, nope, I've done enough debates. I'm going to focus on mobilizing the base.
Yeah, so is that why, because what you just laid out there, Greg, is that why Senator Perdue has opted to not engage with Jon Ossoff? Is that basically the broader campaign strategy?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a part of it. And I think you have to factor in the last debate they did just a few weeks ago down in Savannah, Georgia, where Jon Ossoff had a viral moment, a moment where he called David Perdue a crook that was seen by millions of people. I think that Perdue's camp recognized that no matter what they would do in the debate, at another debate, a viral moment like that could, again, overshadow whatever kind of performance they felt like they had.
Well, on Sunday, Democratic candidates Ossoff and Reverend Warnock, as we said, appeared together at a joint event in the suburbs of Marietta. Greg, how have some of these suburban areas in Georgia changed in recent years, and why are these candidates investing their time there?
Yeah, Elaine, the fact that their first joint event was in the suburban Cobb County area says it all. This was an area that, a decade ago was solid Republican ground. This is an area where Newt Gingrich, the former House Speaker, made his political stand. This is an area that has been so solidly Republican that often Democrats don't even bother running for state legislative seats in that area. Well, that started changing in 2016 when Hillary Clinton narrowly flipped that county and Stacey Abrams improved upon those margins 2 years ago in the governor's race. Well, now it's firm Democratic ground. And not only is it firm Democratic ground, it's also the cornerstone of any Democratic efforts to win these runoffs in January. If they don't win suburban Cobb County and Gwinnett County, which is on the other side of the suburban metro Atlanta, then they have no chance of winning these runoffs in January.
Is it demographic changes then, Greg? Is that what we're seeing in those counties?
I think some of it's demographic changes. The suburbs of Atlanta are no longer stand-in. When you talk about suburbanites in metro Atlanta, they're no longer stand-ins just for white voters like they might have used to be. The suburbs are growing increasingly diverse. And among white voters, particularly white college-educated women, they are leaving the Republican Party and turning towards Democratic candidates. In part, that's because of Trump. In part, that's because of the messages from Democrats focusing on maybe health care and education are more appealing. And in part, that's also because suburban white male support is starting to dwindle as well. So Democrats are on the upswing of the suburbs, but at the same time, in the exurbs of metro Atlanta and in rural areas, Republicans are continuing to try to increase upon their gains there to offset those losses in metro Atlanta.
Interesting. Well, Senators Perdue and Loeffler appear to be tiptoeing around President Trump's projected election loss. How is that shaping their campaign messaging?
Yeah, it's a great question because it's really depriving them of one of their better arguments in this runoff, which is essentially a victory for Republicans staves off single-party control of Washington for Joe Biden and Democrats. They can't say that because that would be accepting the fact that Joe Biden won the presidency. So instead, they're talking about saving the Senate majority, but they're not really saying that, hey, if Democrats win this thing, they'll have complete control of Washington. And really, that's the argument we expect to hear once Republicans acknowledge that Donald Trump lost the election. And it's going to be really interesting on Friday when Vice President Mike Pence comes down to Georgia to see how he navigates that line, right? Because neither he nor Senators Perdue or Loeffler have acknowledged that fact.
Yeah, that really will be interesting to watch. Well, the Georgia Republican who does not appear to be as concerned about angering President Trump is Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. On Tuesday, he criticized the president's campaign strategy. What is he saying?
Yeah, he essentially said President Trump is the author of his own defeat in Georgia. There's about 24,000 or so Republican voters in the June primary here who did not vote by mail in November. And he's saying that basically when President Trump cast doubt on mail-in ballots, he also sent the signal to these voters not to bother mailing in their ballots in November. And so that President Trump has only himself to blame for his November defeat in Georgia, which, by the way, is about a 13,000 vote margin right now, about closer to 12,000 plus margin. So by these thinnest of margins, every single tactic, every single strategy matters.
Every single strategy matters. All right, Greg Bluestein, I have a feeling we will be talking to you a lot more between now and January 5th. Thanks as always. Really appreciate your insight.
Thanks for having me.